All right, everyone. Last looks. Quiet on set. Roll sound. Sound speed. Roll camera. Camera speed. Scene one. Take one. Mark it. And action. Hi, I'm Ed, the host of Savannah on Film, and we explore the economic and cultural impact and values of the film industry in Savannah through conversations with people who work in the industry in related fields. You can find us here on WRUU-LP, Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings, community radio with global soul. All the wonderful fanfare there. Welcome everyone to Savannah on Film, another wonderful episode. I promise you, I've got a fascinating gentleman here who's going to impart a bunch of knowledge on you guys. So I hope you're buckled up and you're ready. And I want to let you know that what our mission here, and we have a mission at Savannah on Film. Our mission is to explore the economic and cultural impacts of the film industry in Savannah through conversations with people who work in the industry in related fields. We're here on the fantastic WRUU 107.5 FM, that's 107.5 FM LP, Savannah Soundings, community radio with global soul. And as a reminder, WRUU is on Twitter at WRUU1075, WRUU1075, so you might want to check out their Twitter. We've got a lot going on there. We've got so many shows, so many programs you're really going to love. A very eclectic style of music and talk and politics and all those fun things that make the world go around. And we talk about the film industry here, how it relates to Savannah, those working in the industry here and in the generalized area and people in the industry. And I want to start with just giving you a little intro about my guest today. His name is, well, I'll tell you in a second. But he grew up in Johnson City, Tennessee, and began his film career in the film industry after graduating with his Master's of Communications at the University of Tennessee. Go Dogs. Oh, wait a minute. Bulldogs fan here. He became involved in features and television shows, including and working at the Savannah Film Office or Savannah Regional Film Office, and as a location scout. And we're going to talk about what people's perceptions of what a location scout does and doesn't do, and that's going to be part of our conversation. But this gentleman was working as a location scout. He's worked in New Orleans and Atlanta, and he's been in location scouting and location management. Since then, he has worked with a variety of major film and television studios on productions throughout the entire southeast of the country here. His recent credits, you may know him from working on NBC's Council of Dads, RIP, Council of Dads, gone too soon. Amazon's The Underground Railroad, Paramount's What Men Want, Pop Network's Florida Girls, I guess that's another RIP, and Netflix, The Haunting of Hill House. And he currently resides in the wonderful fantastically wonderful Savannah, Georgia, where we're broadcasting from. And without further ado, I want to welcome Ryan Watterson with two T's
Well,
to
thanks for
to
having me.
Savannah. Well, thank you, and welcome. And that was a bit of an elaborate opening there, but so this gentleman, he has. I need to buy more paper for my printer because I decided to print out some notes here, and there's more than I can deal with. You've got a very impressive resume here. I feel like I'm giving a job interview back in the HR.
That's what it feels like.
So yeah, so tell me why you want this job.
Right.
But um, let's see. So we'll start with the obvious. What is a location scout?
Location scout. Well, a location scout, you're given the script, and your responsibility is to find locations that not only work for the production, but also, for your cast and crew.
Mhm.
Um, you're working directly with the production designer. He's got a vision, or she's got a vision, and you are trying to make it work within the city. And you'll also help kind of hand things off once production begins to the locations crew.
Okay. What are some things that people don't understand about locations and or that they get wrong? That they do they think you just show up there and I mean, what are some things? What are some things
Yeah.
that they think you do that you don't, or they think
Well, yeah, I think a lot of people do have a misperception because we typically work behind the scenes. And when your cast and crew show up to set, things are already put together, and that's kind of where our work um, shows. And so we would have, gone through not only finding it but permitting it, doing all of the logistics, and setting it up. And unfortunately, things do go wrong, and you're also troubleshooting, and ultimately things do go wrong. And so you're literally problem solving day in and day out. You could have set it up perfectly, but then you've got weather conditions, or there's so many different things that you have to deal with.
yeah, lately in Savannah there's been a lot of weather. It's weird.
Yeah, it actually affects me today with all the rain. So
Yeah. Now, locations management's a little bit more intensive than, of course, than it kind of I guess that encapsulates more than just scouting. Scouting is where you go out and you find the locations that you're going to film at. Locations management is, I guess, managing those locations and everything therein.
that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And I've grown to enjoy both aspects of it. And after working films, after being a scout, I started off as a scout, but then after working on the films and locations, then you really do learn to look at it differently. You look at locations a lot differently than you did before.
Why is that?
Well, I think that at first you're going out and looking for anything that just works. You're trying to feed the producer and the production designer, and really, honestly, at first make them happy, which is still a goal. But when you're working on set, you didn't consider, oh well, what's also best for the crew. Is
Right.
Are we close to an airport? Are we close to a train station? I mean, there's all these things that come into to factor that, when you're going out, you may have not considered. Is there room for is there extra room for everyone?
Right. Um,
Hold on. Yeah.
so you literally just got in from scouting some locations. I don't know if you're able to talk about them. If there's any, um, so you can speak in generalizations if you have to. Uh,
Sure.
so I'll let you lead on this. So
Yeah, no, that's not a problem. There's definitely projects looking, and I think that's, Savannah needs to know that it's a there's hope out there. There's actually a lot of productions that are looking, which um, has honestly put me to work as a scout. And so, um, there's a feature that's looking here right now, but they're also looking in other cities. And so it's not one that has actually, um, you know, it's not for sure filming in Savannah yet, but it's our job through this week to, hopefully find the locations, your big locations, and um, solidify that solidify that production here in town.
Okay, so that's one of them. The other one, and we're not giving names unless
Oh,
you feel
sure.
comfortable giving names. The feature film, the other one. that
Okay. Okay. And that's fine. That one is the Kimberly Ray story, which has been, since 2012, looking at the Savannah area to film, and so I have been assisting that production as well, towards the producer side, and putting the pitch packet together and trying to get investors, but then also trying to bring it to Savannah and get people working.
um, not much. I really don't want to push you too hard on those
Oh,
two that you're scouting for, because I don't want to give anything away. And if something doesn't end up being here, that's how the film industry works. I mean, and you can chime in here. I mean, you may scout a location and then
oh,
they may
yeah.
pick it up and say that, but then they may say, oh, well, we're going to do most of the production and over here somewhere.
Exactly. That's
Different city,
definitely.
different country. It could happen.
Yeah, and due to the current climate, I think that that is also pushed productions. That's pushed productions to, I know Vancouver, for instance, is the other city that's vying for a film that I'm scouting on, and so you're constantly trying to uh, also weather those storms as well.
Yeah, and unrelated, but when I think of Vancouver, I think of a lot of the CW shows. I mean, going
Yep.
all the way
Yeah.
back to Smallville, with Tom
Yes.
Welling, and how that, they did a lot out of there. And
Yeah.
we hate to, I'm just going to stare right in the camera and say this, people
Yeah.
need to hear that there are features that are being scouted here in Savannah
I
at
agree.
this
Yeah.
time of COVID. But personally, I think if we had done a better job masking up, paying attention to what we should have done, we and ourselves, the ones that haven't, have really helped prolong and make this pandemic that we're going through. In my opinion, we've made it worse. In fact, we've made it worse. Those who don't mask up. Um, there are productions that may not come to Savannah, that may not come to many states, that may go overseas. I mean, we've talked to people on previous shows about this, and I know the DGA, PGA, they're trying to do everything they can to set the right standards and all that, but we're still in a pandemic. COVID-19 has not gone away. It's
Right. Right.
and
And every production that I've worked on, I don't mean to interrupt, every
right,
production that I've worked on has given a set of rules almost. I mean, even Lionsgate, if Florida Girls ended up happening, um, they had prepared a whole, it was a nice thick booklet of the new rules going forward, which, our department has changed drastically because of this. It's now a focus on, um, this pandemic and safety. It's always been about safety. Locations has always been about making sure that everyone is safe and comfortable. But this adds a whole new element.
right. I mean, you got to think of things because down here we have every possible type of climate except or natural feature, I guess, except the mountains. And
Yeah.
but if let's say you're near the marsh, you've got to think about gators that might come
Right.
north.
Oh yeah.
You have to think about that stuff with locations. If you're Will Smith, you don't like sand gnats. So
Right. Yes.
you gotta. And
But you're right. Yeah, the
yeah,
Wranglers are important. I did Underground Railroad in just this time last year, and we had, we had an alligator wrangler, and then we had our, you know, not just, there's so many different elements. We were at Myrtle Grove Plantation, and there were so many different things that we had to consider. It was, yeah. I've said it. I've compared it to camping. It's literally taking, you know, 100 over 100 people camping and making sure that they're set up for success. That you've got the bathroom, you've got, you know, how are they going to get in? How are they going to get out?
Right.
Where are they going to eat? So it's
Location deals with if you're filming in a neighborhood, right? You know, you've got to, there's the beforehand process of, you know,
oh yeah,
everybody know, you know, knocking on those doors and, you know, giving them the leaflets and saying, hey, we're going to be filming. I mean, I remember being on a film and Locations was there, and they had to come talk to the neighbor because it was 2:30 in the morning, and we had, you know, the spotlights out, but they weren't like on this person's house, but they knew in advance we were filming. But, you know, that's the give and take that has happened in Savannah, you know, especially when you're relatively new to, you know, big productions. Of course, the productions are going to respect the reputable ones are going to respect the locations, and you always leave it better than the way you found it. That's
right.
The rule.
It's different. It's different now. Like you said, it is. When I have to approach someone, I've noticed. I've just been scouting over the past week, and you know, people are hesitant. You show up, you know, you're masked. We're supposed to be wearing gloves, and so you show up as this figure asking to, you know, potentially go into their home, and so you're trying to make them comfortable, but then there's this. It's a very strange balance, and even leaving a business card,
there's a genuineness.
they don't want my business card. It's trying to figure out this new way of going about it and approaching people during all of this.
Yeah, Locations isn't something you can necessarily Skype in or Zoom into. You kind of need to physically see the location, because there's things, you know, you'll experience there in nature, or, you know, in the buildings, or the, you know, how this lines up, this neighborhood, or this barn that you're filming at, or whatever it may be. You know,
they've asked us to be more virtual. Yeah, they've asked us to be more virtual, and so that actually changes things when we're, you know, when I'm out scouting, I'm taking a lot more video than I used to, and we upload it to SmugMug. But it's something to where we're having to have a different approach for producers so that they're able to do this walkthrough almost.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many aspects of it that, and add COVID on top of that, the concerns about that, and I know everything has changed, and how we do films, and that's always a concern of mine. The films that aren't the big budget films, the lower budget tier films, the low budget, no budget, you know, ultra low budget, whatever films, you know, are they being safe, you know, and it's
right. And I'm hesitant. Yeah, I've been hesitant to take on projects specifically for that reason. And I think that, you know, if they have a proper setup in place, and a plan, that's one thing. But yeah, it's a little frightening, even when you're signing your you know, contract or agreement. There is a little clause in there about COVID, and you know, your
liability issues.
The production is not responsible. Yeah, the production is not responsible, so you're risking it.
Yeah, that was something I was going to touch on. Yeah, the productions and you know, even businesses now that, you know, you go into that you're allowed to go into for food or whatever. You know, there's almost a, you know, enter at your own risk, and it's from a business owner's perspective. I can understand that, but it is a little daunting, you know, if that particular place that you choose to go to, let's say it's a food establishment, and you go there and everybody's got a mask on, but they're way down here on their chin, you know, so you know they're not doing stuff properly. You can choose obviously not to go there. That's all right, of course, but the thing is, you know, you run a risk, and in life there's always going to be a risk, but with COVID, it's made it more difficult, and you know, especially for people that are a little bit more conscious of it. You know, we go into areas like that, or, you know, and and it's just, I mean, everything has changed. I mean, I have a friend who's ventured back to the cinemas when they opened, and he was really giving kudos to AMC for the measures that they put in place. But recently, he's been going to different showings of films locally here, and he goes purposely at the time where he thinks there's going to be the least amount of people, which makes sense.
Okay.
And he did talk to him, and talked to one of the employees, social distance, mask on, all that good stuff, and asked him how business was, and he said it's not good. um, People are still, we're about to come up on the flu season, and there is a genuine fear that people have, and it's warranted. That there's no set vaccine yet, so we're not sure. And so people are they're going to this, they're venturing back to the cinemas, but it's going to be slow. We were thinking hopefully we would have been done with this by now. Have a few months of COVID, and then the pandemic would be over, but it's not. It's still lingering,
Right.
and it could, we could be double dipping. Have a third wave or whatever. I don't know, but I don't want us to. I know that's affected. It's affected everything, and it's affected in front of the camera, behind the camera, the theater chains, and we don't need the theater chains to fail. We need those theaters. We need the local theaters, and we get into. Um, there's I know there's a local Shakespeare company that puts on these wonderful plays that I love to go to, and they're trying to find a way to do that virtually, and everybody's trying to find a new way to do things, but I don't know. It's still
Yeah.
difficult. It's still hard out there, and in locations. I mean, you're on the front line definitely, because you have to go there. You have to visit those places. You have to scout those places, and all that. So I don't want to talk about that anymore.
Yeah, I understand it.
Yeah, it's like I'm tired of talking about COVID, but it's something we have to,
Yeah,
talk about.
it's
It's
still
something
affecting.
that's
It's
it,
affecting our industry for
it's
sure.
it's
So
that it's that it's that animal that keeps showing up at your front door once you feed it. It's there. That's
yeah.
different than that, I'm sure. But anyway, some of your experiences you worked on, like one of the last major things you worked on. You were a key assistant location manager on NBC's Council of Dads,
Yes.
and the location manager on that was Stephen Yetman, who we've had here on Savannah on Film. He's an awesome guy. And
Yeah.
let's talk about that experience. I know nobody wanted that show to end. There was a lot of
Yeah.
people really loved that film. It was bringing a lot of revenue in, but NBC decided to go a different way, unfortunately. But what experiences can you tell me about things that you've learned that, in honing your craft even more from Council with Ads?
Yeah, that's a great question. I kind of got my start into, from scouting as I branched into the location management side. Series is what, The Haunting of Hill House was a really good example of that. And it's a different kind of beast. You've got 10 episodes, but on the scouting side, you're having to find so many different locations, and then also consider what it's going to be like months down the road when you might have to go back. So you're trying to, harvest these relationships. And Council of Dads, Savannah needed a series. I was really, really happy to see a series that was keeping people working. Like you said, we had a really great locations team. Stephen Yetman at the helm. He's he's an amazing boss. He really is, and you know, very smart and intelligent. And he came from that Army Wives, multiple
Right.
seasons, and so anything that we would fear, because I know that at one point they nicknamed us the Council of Moves, because that's all we were doing was moving so many times. And so you know we had to prepare for that. We almost had two separate little teams that would form to where one person's always ahead, just
Mhm.
making sure that this is set up. But I just saw how much Savannah loved this story, and how many people open their doors that typically won't. Maybe they had some type of personal connection to Bruce Feiler. Um, you know, a, who lived in Savannah. And when I was scouting, I got to find out where he lived, for real in Savannah, and just like all of his actual, the reality of it all. But then how do we put that into a story? And so it was just so much fun, and I think that people were really receptive. And I from everyone that I talked to, they had such a great experience, not only working on it, but also, watching it. And there was so much good feedback from people just saying like, man, I saw this establishment or this establishment, and hey, there's the Crab Shack. And so,
Well, Savannah, yeah, was a very, very important part of that. And probably one of the first series to really put Savannah front and forward. And I learned something from watching that season. I learned that you can get on your bicycle and you can ride from Savannah to Pooler at night. And it's like right down the street.
You're right though. Yeah. I know what you're talking
things
about.
that only a true Savannah would know. But but there's the it was a great show, and I think it deserved a second season. It was groundbreaking television in a lot of ways, and a lot of people that I've had on the show. We've had several people that worked behind the camera and such, and that really had a good experience on it. And so, do you know of any series coming? Any talk? Anything you're hearing?
I honestly don't. There's. I know that the first level of the Savannah Regional Film Office is your first level of events there, where they'll make a location package, and then it typically then is handed off to the location scouts in town. And so I don't know of anything that's sticking. I know that Katie is working very hard to Katie and Beth are working very hard to bring in productions. So.
Yeah, they do a fantastic job there at the film office, and being ambassadors for Savannah and going out there and letting people know Savannah's a great location, and people know that. And something that we talk about is infrastructure on here, and not just the physical infrastructure. So if anybody listens, they know where this conversation's going. First off, where's my sound stage? You promised me a sound stage. Where is it? There's the physical infrastructure, but there's also we have the wonderful schools that between SCAD and Savannah Tech with their Georgia Film Academy program, putting a lot of new talent out there. There's a lot of actors I know that give acting classes, and a lot of casting directors that are doing their part, to really grow this Savannah community. What do you think we're lacking, other than, of course, the soundstage? What can we do better, in your opinion?
I think that's a very good question. I know that from, again, my more of my expertise comes from the location side. Mm-hmm. And I think that they've done a really good job at putting the permits in place, and it's hard because I think that a lot of people will come into the city, and there's been a lot of instances and a lot of things that I've worked on where it's gone. Since they don't live here in Savannah, mm-hmm. Typically a production company may leave and go back to California, and not everything was put into place the way that it should be. So I do feel like productions could do a better job in the end at leaving Savannah on a better note at times.
Well, on the infrastructure side of that, of course, I know some productions that, they set up office here in the Savannah area. They get the tax incentive, like the Georgia and the Chatham County or Savannah tax incentives. Yes. And they set up, the production office there, do a decent amount of filming here. Some of course requires different places around the world, and as it may be. But, when 90 something percent of the invoices are to Los Angeles. That's still an issue. That's still something that we've got to work on. We've got to have more,
Yeah.
I think, more infrastructure. And that's one of the things about this show that we talk about all the time is having that infrastructure and, having that sound stage. We're looking at the wonderful model that Tyler Perry has put together up there
Oh
in
yeah.
the Atlanta
Yes.
area. And, he's created the bubble, and I know other productions and other studios are watching what they're doing there because they filmed
Sisters, right?
Sisters, I think, yeah, a season of that. And uh,
It was phenomenal how it just encompassed everything. You would almost go and check in, and I've had the opportunity
you
to
go into
film
your
there.
alternate dimension. You're in this bubble, quite
Yeah.
literally. Well, not literally, I guess, but it's like a bubble, and you control with COVID, you control everything, and that's
Right.
and it seemed to work. I know Mandalorian, which is about to come back at end of October on Disney Plus, that they have a way they set their sound stages up and how their screens are basically within a studio. The entire floor, the ceiling, the wall, it's all LED. It's
Uh,
all screen, and they can project onto it and whatever they need to do. But they've created these like closed off smaller sets with less people following the rules. And so every studio is finding their different way of doing it. And you know uh, when you get stuff out of state, you have to ship it. That costs the production more.
right.
At some point we need a home base here that Disney can come in and say, okay, boom. Amazon can come in here and say, boom, you got that
Right.
great sound stage. I see
And that's
people.
what we look. We're looking for vendors who are local. We still are pulling from Atlanta. We do have to for some things, but I think going back to what you said, make as far as infrastructure goes, also crew. Pushing local crew, pushing local vendors, and it,
Because we don't need our crews that we're training here to go to Atlanta, or the closest place, generally speaking, you know, to work on stuff. I mean, that's great if they do, more power to
yeah,
you, but we'd like to keep more of that talent here and keep bringing
absolutely
those
right. Or
local
come
productions.
back. Yeah,
Yeah,
because that was one thing I definitely went there to get different experience and work in a large city environment, and it it definitely helps when you come back to Savannah. Um, you learn different ways of approaching the city that you didn't before, that maybe Atlanta does
right,
better, especially in my department.
right. All right. Well, we're going to have to catch a break or two here. So everyone stay with us here. You're listening to Savannah on Film here on WRUU 107.5 FM. And we're going to be back after these few announcements. So just hang in there with us. We'll be right back.
Disasters don't stop, even during a pandemic. The Red Cross is here to help when disasters strike. They respond to a disaster every 8 minutes. They help people to prepare for disasters, and they help prevent disasters such as home fires. The Red Cross saves lives by providing blood. And now, free COVID-19 antibody testing is available when donating blood with the Red Cross. More information about Red Cross services and donating blood can be found at www.redcross.org. This is a message from the Georgia State Department of Public Health. Social distancing means minimizing contact with people. It also means that if you are near someone in public, try to stay at least 6 feet away. The less contact people have with one another means the less opportunity for the virus to spread. Slowing the spread of the virus means that we can keep our healthcare system from becoming overwhelmed. More information can be found at dph.georgia.gov.
WRUU brings you the most diverse and passionate local radio programming on the air in Savannah. This all-volunteer and nonprofit community radio station accepts no money from any form of government. Our diversity and independence is made possible only through the generous financial support of listeners like you. We rely on your annual and ongoing monthly contributions to cover the many costs associated with bringing you our broadcast and web programming. If you are a contributor, thank you. If you're not yet a contributor, please show your appreciation of the role WRUU plays in your life by becoming a contributor in any amount. You can donate quickly and easily by credit card or check. Just find the donate and subscribe links at wruu.org. Thanks for listening to and supporting WRUU.
This is WRUU-LP, Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings, community radio with global soul.
And we are back here. You're all listening now on the fantastic WRUU 107.5 FM LP, Savannah Soundings, community radio with global soul here in Savannah, Georgia, the beautiful, wonderful Savannah, Georgia. And we're also on WRUU.org. And just a note, when this is over on the radio, you'll be able to catch the video premiere. We hope you'll join us on YouTube at Savannah on Film, where you'll get to talk with my guest, Ryan Watterson, and myself. You'll be able to bring your questions and comments. So that's Savannah on Film at on YouTube. So you can just check us out there. And so that would be fantastic. So just bringing it back in, we're talking with Ryan Watterson. He is has a lot of experience and in location, being a location coordinator, location scout, location management, you name it. Locations, this man's done it. Some of the films that he has worked on, a lot of them, he's worked on X-Men First Class, Escape Plan 2, Hades, The Do-Over, which, and also worked on Gifted. Now, I know The Do-Over was a pretty fun experience. That's the Adam Sandler film from 2016, I think.
Yeah, oh gosh, yeah, now that you mention it, that was such a unique experience because I went from scouting and actually being a scout, and that was my first really big project, scouting. I went from that to kind of in this other team where, you know, Adam would basically get so much money to find, you know, for all his producers and buddies to live kind of closely. And then he also cared about his daughters and everything like that. So it became my job to, you know, find housing, you know, within, he had very specific housing arrangements that he wanted. And then also setting up a school that was directly behind his house on Jones Street, where, you know, they were doing, you know, athletics and dance, and it was finding all of these people and just making sure that his kids also had a good time. But just really, I think that the purpose was making sure that he had a really great time and enjoyed Savannah.
Yeah. What was working on Gifted like? What experiences did you have on that?
So that was scouting. Yeah, I scouted that directly after I was finishing up The Do-Over, and I was scouting for Gifted at that time, and it was good. It was a change of pace from The Do-Over for sure. You know, every project brings new locations and new problems to solve, for sure.
Right. Yeah, every project has its own unique set of challenges.
So that one was the library. That was the Bull Street Library, and just getting them to come on board, I remember. And so it's challenging for sure.
You've worked on one of the things you worked on was CNN Hometown Heroes. I'm going back and just kind of skipping around here.
Yeah.
You're a production coordinator on that. Well, and that was back in 2012 down here in Savannah, correct? And what was that like?
Yeah.
What was that experience like?
Let me tell you, because so they came to just shoot the opener, and what they wanted was to take these lanterns, and they wanted to basically set off these lanterns on the beach. And so Tybee at first wasn't down for that, so I had to go before city council and basically, you know, state my case to the council we had to hire a Marine coordinator and make sure that he would, pick up all of these lanterns as much as he could so that we weren't, affecting the sea life. And so it just became, a very involved project, and just getting that to happen here. And it was a really beautiful result. And it was really cool that was my first experience, like going before the council, like really fighting for something to happen, making it happen. And I think the joys of all that too is you can go back to that same spot, like anywhere in town for all these projects, and you've got stories because people will film, and you've set up all of these, all of the logistics. There's lifts and all of that stuff, and then it's not there anymore. And so you rely on what you see, but then you also have, exactly how it went, and it's not always the way that it seamlessly goes when it's on camera. So.
Yeah. An example for me was Galveston. The first thing I was on, I was coming out of GFA, and it was a fantastic experience. Still one of my favorite experiences, and fantastic director that we had. And I remember, the film that ended up coming out was much different than, because and that was my first experience on a professional set, but it was still, it was still good. It was just interesting, film the first time I've really been on a big budget film, not a super big budget film, but a film of that level, and to see the places I've grown up and that we filmed at, and I have so many ties to a lot of those locations, and I'll just randomly be, when I pass something in Savannah, I'm like, oh, I remember that, and it's because films are like that, films and TV series or whatever you work on, it's like you create those little memories, and it one way, but now it another way too, that different locations, and that's what's
right.
fun.
And you're hoping that the filmmaking experience went well and they were left with a good taste in their mouth, because that will change everything moving forward.
Oh, it will. People complain when the St. Patrick's Day parade, which didn't happen this year because of COVID. But yeah, they complain about the noise, and, they may complain about the sets and the filming here or there, such and such, and maybe traffic's a little bit more hectic than usual. But, they sure like seeing how beautiful Savannah ends up on the big screen or television or wherever, Netflix or wherever these, shows land. And that's the thing is, you in locations, you gotta, I guess, gain the trust of the community
Absolutely.
to promise them, yeah, we're going to leave it better than we found it, and we we're not just here to stomp on your grass and dig this up and this and that, we'll fix it, everything will be fine, and all in all, I know the film office works very, very diligently in making sure a lot of that, the productions adhere to those standards, and they're professionals, of course, on these that come through.
That is what I was saying earlier too, is that sometimes productions won't, they might not agree to fill out your last check request for an issue that happened. And so I know that the film office has been really great at helping push, if we need help on our end, we can go to them to help push that and get that request and make the owner happy.
So I'm not going to ask you to name a favorite production you're on. I'm not going to ask you. It's like saying, which child did you like the best?
Everything's a different experience. Yeah.
Everyone's a different experience. So there's no favorite. There's no one that kind of stands out in your mind, or would you rather not say?
Well, yeah. I'd say the one that was just. I think I had an opportunity to work on a film that filmed half in Savannah, and then the other half was in Bikaner, India. Oh. And so the project had started off, and this was around 2012. And so it started off where it had filmed before. They started off in India, and things just went absolutely haywire. And so they had to cancel it. And so then they decided to pick up production again and start in Savannah and then go to India. And I learned so much. And that's the thing, is that every project that comes, I feel like I've learned from something before that's made me just a little bit ready to handle the situation. Luckily, that doesn't always happen. But with India, once we left the States, it was no holds barred. I mean, we were, it was definitely a culture shock, and it was one that, we had 5 of us. Tim Gill was the DP, and so there were several of us that just kind of we band together, and we just, we did it. We immersed ourselves in the culture, and there for a couple of weeks and made it happen.
So it was very much a culture shock of maybe how the production was run per se in India.
Oh, yes. Well, we were also supposed to go to Orissa, and then we ended up, it was last minute. She was like, nope, we're going to go to Bikaner. But filmmaking out there is completely different. You hire a production company, and all of a sudden there's like 200-300 people. There's literally somebody that was standing there with a light. It's incredible. I mean, it's a force. You get so much bang for your buck very, very quickly, and people are just, I mean, there were so many times though that I wanted to just put the camera on what we were seeing, the villages and things like that. There was so much story there, and it was just incredible. But and I felt bad that we were, shooting this story, and when there was this other story to be told as well. But I think what I took from it is that the locals absolutely just loved us being there, and it took them away from any environment, and it just made them, they were so appreciative, and they loved every minute of it, and that was so inspiring.
What are some of the challenges you think that we're going to be facing in the 2020s and beyond? Let me kind of phrase it this way. As we're embracing more technology in our everyday lives, do you see that affecting or complementing? I would assume complementing more than being a hindrance, but more than complementing your job as a location scout, location management. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's definitely both. I can see that's a good question. There are, I feel like, pros and cons to technology, where I know before there was a long process that you had. I know that you would take photos, and then you would go develop your photos, and you would have to make a folder. It was a whole process, and I think through that you were able to have more time, and you were able to set things up a lot better. Now we do have just everything at our fingertips, in a sense, and it's we're responsible for immediate response, immediate changes, and I feel like there's been situations where we have just needed more time, but we were expected to pull through and make it work.
Make it work somehow.
Which is filmmaking. Yeah, I know that is filmmaking.
I need it now. I need this. I need this shot. I need that.
Yeah.
For this one.
I think that there are times where safety has been in question, and hey, do we try to make this work because this is what they just absolutely want or have to have? I did learn, going back, from Stephen Yetman, he's very, very good at judgment calls. He won't feed into their emotions of, oh, I've got to have that. This is, if it is not a good situation, he can read that right away and will shut it down. And I think sometimes we're so eager to please, and we want to see it work, and you get into this world, and you have to get it done. You want to make it work. You want it perfect as well. But sometimes you also have to have that reality check where, hey, this probably is not going to work out today.
Okay. Well, we talked about where we think it's going. What turned you on initially to working in film? What was kind of like the spark, the big bang that made you consider a career in the film industry, film and television industry?
Yeah. Well, I honestly didn't know what I wanted to do. It was really funny. I think if I had to answer that, it would be the year 1999. And that year specifically, so many films came out. I was 16 years old, and there were films that, I mean, it was such a banner year for films. It was like Fight Club and Boondock Saints and The Matrix
Yeah.
and things that, like, I know Star Wars was coming back that year.
Oh, yeah.
And so there were all of these really imaginative, creative stories. I'm someone that has had crippling anxiety, and I have used film to cope with a lot of that. There's that duality where, I know that a team makes everything work, but at the same point in time, I am an introvert, and I am someone that, um, you know, it's film has really been that segue for me to, um, you know, get invested into something bigger. And it also it eases your anxiety. Every experience that you get, every experience on set, on film, when you're being yelled at, all of that stuff is happening, and you end up being able to handle the situation a lot better moving forward.
Yeah, and I'm on the other side of that spectrum. I'm the extrovert with
Yeah,
the sometimes the crippling anxiety, but it's, so that, like, the pandemic's not been good for me necessarily. It's been good creatively, but it's
oh
like
yeah, I was born ready for this. I mean,
yeah, I mean, introverts, I feel like,
yeah,
I'm introvert and most
I don't.
created this. No,
Yeah,
but this is an introvert's dream in a way. No,
to some degree, I think that's where there is that whole fear side of it, and with anxiety, you're always worried about the future, and the future is so unknown.
and
The
sometimes
future,
it can be crippling because you don't even want to take that chance because you're afraid of failure, and it's just
yeah,
anxiety. It's just that voice in your head telling you, "Well, maybe I can't do this. Maybe the skills I thought I had, maybe they're not good enough, or maybe that person's better than I am." So
right.
you just gotta, push forward.
You're always you're always questioning it, and I mean, I was fortunate. I got a scholarship for social anxiety to get through school, and I was really interested in psychology, and I was mandatory to take these classes like theater and film, and I started to just really, really enjoy, stepping into someone else's shoes or being able to tell a story where that's not you, that doesn't define you. You can get past, this. You can do a really great job in film. There's some place in film for everybody.
Right, right. We've said that before. Yeah, it doesn't matter how old you are, when you
Yeah,
start, what your past was. There's a department that can utilize your talents, and it's important.
it's so true. It's so true. And my big thing, when I see up and coming people, I'm really big with stewardship, and I really appreciate people that really want to come into this business and do a good job, and maybe just need an opportunity, because it is a small town, and it's hard sometimes to get that nudge up. Even just being a PA in the world, how can you get to that next level? Do you want to get to that next level? And I love to talk to people about it. My path wasn't locations. I would, I would love to produce, but um, I really found a home in locations, because you are literally integrated with every department, and you're problem solving, and you're working with a budget, and you're just getting everything. You're getting all facets of production.
Okay, and on that, we're going to tease some stuff that we're going to talk about in the video. So you may want to join us after this on YouTube, and we'll be talking about it in the chat there at Savannah on Film. But I want to thank you, Ryan Watterson. We're going to close this portion of the show for the radio. And you've been listening here on WRU 107.5 FMLP Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. Listening on WRUU.org. And check out our Twitter for WRUU. And there's always a lot of good stuff, our WRUU.com, our website there. And you can always check out the wonderful programs, 107.5 on the radio dial there in Savannah. And I want to thank you for joining us here on this episode, Ryan Watterson. And we'll see you guys on Savannah on Film on YouTube. So we're going to continue the conversation. So come on over to YouTube if you want to, and you can ask some questions and comments. I'm projecting into the future here. So anyway, thank you, Ryan, for being here. And we're going to roll the outro here. And thank y'all for listening to Savannah on Film. All right. You have been listening to another episode of Savannah on Film, where we give a voice to the Savannah film community. Please like our Facebook page, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow us on Twitter. This program was originally broadcast on 107.5 FM in Savannah, Georgia, and worldwide on www.wruu.org. Join us next time for more intriguing insights into the vibrant Savannah film community here at Savannah on Film. And we are back. We're off the radio now, and we're on here on YouTube. So welcome to the future. This is Savannah on Film, where we explore the economic and cultural impact of the film industry in Savannah through conversations with interesting people. I don't have anybody but interesting people on this show. That's what I say. But we talk with people, conversations with people who work in the industry and related fields. And thank you for listening on the radio. And hopefully you're here now. It's Saturday night. I'm projecting into the future. You're watching this video, and you're filling up the chat room here with your comments and questions. And you have been for the first part of the video premiere here on YouTube at Savannah on Film. And anyway, we've got a lot to talk about still. And my guest is Ryan Watterson. And that's Watterson, 2 T's in there. You can find him on IMDb. Where else can people reach you if they're trying to get a hold of you?
LinkedIn as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not big with the self-promotion, but it helps when we're going door to door with locations to have some place to.
Yeah, then people can look you up and see if you're legit. And, why is this guy coming to my house?
Yeah, definitely.
Doesn't he know there's a pandemic going on? Blah, blah, we talked about a lot of things. We were talking about. I guess we'll just kind of pick up where we left off. We were talking about. We're going to talk about producing in a minute. I want to kind of get into that. You mentioned that that's something that you want to work on, but we were talking a bit about. Anxieties. What are? I mean, you seem to have developed a good defense mechanism, or maybe that's not the right wording. A good way of dealing with the
coping.
Anxiety that you have.
It's always there. It's more of it's just a coping.
Yeah, and being an introvert, as you say you are, it must be even more. Because I'm an extrovert, so I gain energy from people around me. I love to be around creative people. I just love it when it's it's loud and it's all this stuff going on. And then sometimes, of course, I need my quiet, which is rare. And which is different.
Yeah, I feel like one of the best managers that I've had us do a Myers-Briggs test, and we ended up. Some of us had a few personalities, but then similar personalities, but then others differed quite a bit. And she ended up using each one of our personalities in a way to assist the department. And I thought that was I loved that. It was such it was very insightful, and just looking at really who we are and how we deal with certain situations.
Yeah, I mean, I'm familiar with the test. I was kind of put through it myself, kind of, not officially, and
Yeah.
it gave me some insight into the type of personality that I have. Uh,
Uh,
Even though I feel like I can be different things at different times, but I'm generally a people. I've always been a people person. I used to work in HR, so I was kind of drawn to that. I loved
yeah.
fixing people's issues, their problems or whatever, and just helping people. And I'm just that kind of a people person. And the pandemic for me has been very strange because I'm in a bubble, and I'm
Yes.
purposely
Yeah.
in that bubble to protect myself, my family, until it's safe, and to venture out. And I've had to turn down friends who said, "Let's meet for a coffee. We'll social distance. We'll wear a mask.
Yeah.
We'll stand 400 feet apart." And I'm like, just not yet. It's, and the anxiety of when's this going to end? Usually things have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and this will too. You know,
Right.
but it's easy to get stirred up and to just think, I can think of the worst case scenario, and sometimes going into a project or just pre-planning for a project, I can think of every possible thing that could go wrong, which could be good if you're looking at some kind of threat analysis, or
Yeah.
something like that. But
Yeah.
sometimes I can create those big mountains where there shouldn't be mountains, and
Right.
and then I get to the point and I'm like, oh, this was nothing. I had it all along. What's going on? And we this I'm tying it a little bit to mentorship because we talked about that
Yeah.
before, and that's something that's big with you. It's big with me. I believe that if you have a talent, if you've made it to a certain level, because some people, let's be straight up honest. Savannah's a big little city, and it's not just Savannah, but it's everywhere. But people can be petty. People can be, well, I've made it to this level, and because I'm here, there's only room for enough of us, certain
Yeah.
amount of us in this department, in this city per se, or this wherever. Go somewhere else. It's like,
Right.
and I know that's part of the business and part of being competitive, and that's fine and everything. But I personally believe that it's better to give, because I feel like I never go into a situation where I'm not learning something, and I always like to be challenged. And I feel like that from adversities like that, from different challenges like that, I have definitely learned you know good things, and I've learned. I'm always looking for the good in people, so it's like
Yeah.
I'm looking for that. But I don't think there's enough passing on of knowledge. There's like, look at me, I'm on social media, look where what I've got in the public face.
Yeah.
And but we got to realize that everybody is important. I mean, there's nobody on a film crew that's just throwaway. Even your background actors, they're not a dime a dozen. They're
Yeah.
locations is a vital part of the film industry. There's you know all the departments.
I mean, yeah, we need to be more proactive with that for sure. I think you know in this department, it pays to have a really really strong team, and it also has, if someone gets the opportunity and you don't, and I know that there are only so many projects that happen at a time, and you might be sitting one out, but that doesn't mean that you can't also continue working. I mean, for me, even during um, COVID, I've gone out with my camera and you know
Yeah.
shot new locations and added to my library, and with the producing thing, put together a pitch packet, and even there have been opportunities to scout where I've actually handed them off to people that were interested in scouting and just kind of being there if they have any questions
Mhm.
um, about how to do something. And I think that is really important. And I was continually working before all of this happened, wanting a break, needing a break. I didn't know that it was going to be this. And
Well,
so,
that's the big reset. I really think the powers that be, the
yeah,
scout, whatever you want to call it.
and
Uh,
I'm
yeah, I
I'm a workaholic. workaholic. Yeah, I'm a workaholic, and I even got to a point, where I'm doing all of these chores and household things and just trying to better myself. But I honestly wasn't stopping. I ended up literally tearing my bicep, and, and which made me stop. It made me stop, and it made me think of things, and think of um, it. It made me rest, but it also made me look at things uh, a lot differently. That health is seriously important. These long hours, I was so used to them being on set. I was so strung up. I mean, even from March, April, May, I could not calm down.
And that's one of the things we've talked on previous shows about this. The 10-hour, one of the proposals was a 10-hour workday, and
Yeah.
there's always those memes online. Oh, you worked a 40-hour week. Oh, that's so cute. I worked 60, 70 hours. It's like the film industry versus everyone else. But the human body can only take so much, and especially if you have something like a Friday or something like that, people need that time to recoup in it. And I feel like 2020 was just on everything in life. It was the big pause. It was the big, okay, I'm hitting the brakes. Everybody says you don't have time for this. I wish I had time for this. I wish I had the family life balance,
Yeah.
work-life balance thing going on. And all of a sudden it was thrust upon us, and we had this. And there's a lot of ways you can look at it. Yeah, of course, there was the initial fear and panic of, oh my gosh, how long is this going to last? When's this going to end? Blah, 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 and then, but I personally, I've become, I kind of dug down and gotten more creative with things. And I've learned some technical stuff on a
That's it.
production side that I didn't have. And I've gained skills during this that I wouldn't have had time to gain, and it's allowed me to continue doing this program and to expand
Yeah.
it to new avenues that I had been wanting to do but never had the time to just tinker and figure out, because I'm a tinkerer. I have to try this and see if this works. If it doesn't work, okay, try this equipment, try this, try that, and
Yeah.
then find out, better ways to do things and more efficient ways. And so that's one
Yeah.
of the things.
I had to do the same. I'm a workaholic. I really wanted to be productive. I ended up helping a neighbor, which led to a construction job where I was doing like IT and accounting, which is where I'm at now, just continuing to help out this business. But every little avenue, everything that you learn will strengthen you somehow. I mean, even just having to take all of these accounting courses now, it helped me make a budget. I mean, it really did.
Which can be so helpful, especially even in locations. You're thinking about, okay, the budget now. You're probably taking it into consideration. Okay, well, maybe this is the perfect particular place right here for you can almost see the shot in your head probably, but you're like, is this the most cost effective while also being the actual best, and weighing that. So it puts another like
Another respect. It also gives you another responsibility in a sense, because you do have that insight now, and so you're going to look at things differently, and which does it just adds on. It makes the job so much more involved.
Right.
But if you use this time to train your brain to think that way and acquire these skills and use them to assist you with your job, I think that it's going to take you a lot farther, and you'll be more empathetic to several departments, which is another thing that.
Well, outside of the industry, I think we can all collectively agree. Anybody who's a parent, I'm not a parent, but anyone who's a parent and has had to homeschool their kids for, in quarantine for a while there, must be thankful to eventually get them at least in the online classes or eventually back in school, whatever the situation is. But I think we've gained a greater respect for teachers.
Yeah.
And what they do.
That's for sure.
I always hated this because at one time I thought about going into teaching, and I always heard the thing, those that can't do teach, and I've always hated that saying because it sounded so snarky. But when you think about it, I think no one should ever say that, because it doesn't mean that someone took that. There are people that want to be teachers, that want to, foster that growth and that imagination in the next generation of young adults that are coming up, and
Yeah.
it's a very valuable profession to be a teacher. And we can be a teacher in a lot of ways, and while we're on set in whatever department we are in sharing our knowledge, I think, and giving back and giving other people opportunities.
Yeah.
It,
You're absolutely right.
it's,
And I taught a year at Georgia Southern, and
Mhm.
um, I did learn though that getting out there and actually working on a film set is so much different than the educational system where you know, where you're thanked or you get a second chance to work on something or do a scene over. And I think I love education. I think it's so important, but it's also important in the film industry to actually get out there, you know, be a PA or whatever, and just learn it.
Yeah, there's something about, humbling yourself and just,
Yes.
when you went into it, because we all go into it thinking, yeah, I know this doesn't look that difficult. And then you get there and you're like, oh, okay, this is not what I expected. But
Yeah.
if you're like pleasantly surprised, and if you're really engaged in it, you will learn. You'll make your
Right.
mistakes on the early stuff, hopefully. So when you get on these real professional sets, you'll learn what not to do. And
That's true, and that's the hard part too. Is that you are maybe a producer in school. You're working on something,
right.
and there are sometimes those expectations that you're going to get out, and like, oh well, why can't I do that? If I was doing it and I was doing a good job, so to speak, in school, you know, and some people do, but I think that typically those opportunities are few and far between, and you do have to learn your craft and just
And
go
see
through
how it's
here.
like officially done versus how a textbook taught you, or an instructor. And I'm sure that you got great instruction, but
It's different.
it is different. And you do, and no matter how far in your career, my instructor pops in my head. I can hear his voice, and I'm like, remember this, remember, this, you remember little things, and you remember snippets of things, and you're like, okay, you definitely don't want to do that. And so the people that have come before, they're still sharing their knowledge, and they're sharing, what worked, and and if and they're always trying to save you the heartache of, you know, don't don't go in with this attitude, because half of it in the film industry is showing up on time.
Oh, absolutely.
Saying you're going to be where you're going to be and being there. If you're on time, you're late. I was always taught that way back in school. And that's, those are valuable life lessons. I came from almost 30 years in the corporate world and working, especially a lot of that time in HR, or a portion of that in HR. And then the first time I stepped on a professional set, totally, I was like, okay, red flag, red flag, red flag. It's like, I had to take that HR part of my HR cap off and say, okay, I'm in the film industry now. I've got to see with a new set of eyes. And it was fascinating. And I learned stuff every day. And
Yeah, of course.
that's what we
Course.
got to keep doing. You touched on the fact about maybe in the future producing, and would that be in relation to the Kimberly Ray story and the other things that
Yes.
you want to talk
Yeah.
more about that? Because we didn't really get a chance to flesh that out earlier.
Sure. Yeah, I think I've always wanted to. I went into this business as well. I wanted to tell meaningful stories. I know that with being typically in film, you work on the project that comes to town. You really don't have a say unless you don't want to work. And so I think a lot of times the the idea of producing is to tell a story that you want to tell, or speak on an issue that's important to you. And I saw that with the Kimberly Ray story, and um, I feel like I want to be able to take what I've learned and from each department, from locations, and kind of expand on that. It's just kind of that next move in a
And now
sense.
you have that bit of accounting under your belt. So that
Yeah, it's small and it's different, but I mean, yes, and I know what questions to ask, and I know, you know, I know who I can go to if I do have any, budgetary issues. And so again, it's who you know. This can't be, a project can't be made on its own. You have to work as a team and collaborate. And so any little bit of knowledge, and just sometimes it's just saying, I have no idea, you know, how to do how do I do fringes, and what do I need for this line item? And so you're just having to constantly educate yourself and also talk to those people who could really help you and make a difference.
Right. So, do you have any timeline for when you might be producing the Kimberly Ray story, or is it still kind of on the drawing board or in the works in development?
It's still in the works. I put together a pitch packet and a budget, and so now Kimberly Ray is going to her investors first, who she's known for a while. Again, it's been 2012 since she's been trying to get this off the ground, and so it's
going to be a powerful story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely, it centers on abuse and overcoming that, and really just pushing forward. And she's going to be an advocate for those. She wants her story to really help others and have others, speak out and say that it's okay to come out. And if something has happened, and to speak up, and have a voice.
Very, very important to have a voice. What is the greatest thrill that you get out of working in locations management, et cetera? What is like one of the greatest thrills? I mean, travel, I guess, is one. You get to see wonderful locations.
Yeah, I think it's taking a script and making it a reality. That to me is the greatest joy in it, is building something from nothing, which I think that's why the producing world kind of stands out to me. It's putting together this puzzle. It's a chess game. I mean, there's so many different aspects to it, to where you're having to really think about how all of this is going to go. And then when you see it on the big screen, I think that's the coolest part, is going with your department to actually see this. And you had these experiences that you had filming, and now you get to actually see how it came out. And you made something that people are going to watch.
Right, and
hopefully.
They're going to be pained by, they're going to be provoked by in a good way. It's going to elicit a response, that may make people think differently, in a good way.
Yeah, and the scouting part for me is also, I love that there's a creative element to it, to where I'm able to, I'm able to take photos in a way that's going to push this. Maybe they didn't see, Savannah State, for instance, as a naval base, but hey, I can shoot it in a way that I'm going to push that. I'm going to push that, and I'm going to try to at least throw that idea out there. I might hit, I might completely flop, but it was an idea.
Yeah, or because you have to have a kind of a director's eye, I think, don't you? To be when you're scouting, because you're thinking, you've got the script, you're thinking, okay, how this translates and what's the best, like you said, the best way to bring it to life.
Yeah, and a designer's mindset as well. Just how could they transform this location?
Right, the logistics of it. Yeah, thinking of that.
Yeah.
What are some, you talked about India, but what are some unusual places, or has there been any kind of unusual situations on set that you did not anticipate, and then things just went good or bad? And what were some unusual situations or unusual places that you filmed? And like I said, you mentioned India as one, but
yeah, I mean, I think just when you're able to be in your hometown and you're able to close Bay Street and Bowl, and you're able to dirt them for several hours, and you put all of that together. That really, in the end, feels really good. It's such a cool thing to see.
I got to shut my city down just so we could film this.
Yeah, that we were able to talk to traffic control, and we were able to dot all our I's and cross all our T's, and we were able to make this happen. I think that's a really, really exciting piece of it, and even just allowing City Hall allowed us to basically just use their interior. I mean, we were entrusted to use it the way we needed to and get the job done. And I think that our city's doing a really, really good job at making it film friendly. So that's to answer that part. I'm trying to think of other places that have been unique. Just a lot. I mean, even filming in Porsche up in Atlanta for What Men Want. Those locations were so big. I mean, we got to shut down the entrance of the Mercedes Dome, and we got to basically film in there. And it just you wouldn't really get those experiences anywhere else. It's such an incredible thing.
So some things you can't fake it. It's like you have to be at that location, and it's to capture the
and these were very high-end locations for that film specifically, and it was such a cool thing. And even for I had no idea what I was getting into. There's some situations where you're scouting. I was literally on my way to Savannah, and I was called into Atlanta for Escape Plan 2, and there's Sylvester Stallone, and I don't know Atlanta at all, and I'm literally having to take him around, and I'm going by, just different locations that their camera ready service is amazing here. I don't know if you've heard of that, but we have a camera ready where every single county has an individual who will assist you with locations in that county, and so you can call on them, and they will help you. They're a really great resource. The Atlanta office set it up, Greg Dominy, and it's such a well-run thing. And so I was able to reach out to all of those before I, did that scout for a week, and I was able to make that week work, which then led into me working for Valor. So one thing kind of leads to the next, but people are very, very supportive, and there's a lot of resources out there that I don't feel like everybody's aware of at times. There's, I use Sagis a lot just to get homeowners, sagis.org, just to get homeowners information. And there's just so many incredible resources for our job. And that, again, for, when you're speaking of technology, that is a nice thing that we're able to have at our fingertips, that we can go to Sagis.
Up on your phone and then boom, take me here, take me there. And let's see.
To move, I've had to move vehicles, and before we hate that. That's one thing in locations we do not want to ever do. But there are apps where you're able to you kind of be a detective, and you're able to find out who that person is and contact them. The police also do a really great job, and to locate that owner and get them out before we have to tow.
Yeah, nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to tow a car. And so what advice for people coming up in industries, maybe someone that's considering locations or, hasn't decided what area they want to specialize in? Because sometimes it changes, you get into the industry, and then you start in one thing and you're convinced that's what you want to do, and then it grows into something else, and you're like, well, I really love this now. But
right.
What advice would you give those that are up and coming in the industry?
I think don't be afraid to try any department. Take advantage of those local resources, like WIT's AD training, to see if you want to go that avenue. Be an intern. Don't be afraid to be an intern on a film in a department that you feel that you want to work in. I think that's really important. and just be open to trying it all out. I didn't start off in locations by any means. I was I was a stand-in. I was an extra. I was I thought that I wanted to do the office path, and was in a production office, and that's when I was like, man, I really want to be out there. I want this, but I also want to be out there. What department encompasses that? And so it's don't settle, because again, there is a department that could suit your needs a lot better.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to change it up. Yeah, there might be something that
Change it up, ask questions. You can go through that Savannah Regional Film Office. You can go through the crew. You can call someone up. You can email them. You can ask them questions, and people will accommodate you, for sure.
Yeah. Let's talk about commercial work and music videos. I miss music videos. I grew up in, I guess I'm showing my age, but I grew up in that kind of MTV generation. So I grew up with the birth of MTV when I was kind of age, and so I miss really good videos with storylines, and what are some of your experiences doing that during commercial work versus, of course, film and TV?
Sure. Well, I like the fact that they're short term. They're very temporary. You set it up and then you watch it happen. I've only worked on a few music videos, and Derek Blanks was a really he was an Atlanta director, DP, that came down to film a Faith Evans and a Chrisette Michele video, both. And he loves to shoot, and he makes it like a film almost. And we needed to find Washington D.C. and so I took that on to help him. It's very, 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 very fast paced. You might go to 4, 5, 6 locations in a day, and that's even not unreasonable. And so you just have to be tight. You have to be tight, and you have to set up for the worst.
So you have to kind of plan for that worst to possibly happen, and so with the commercial work and
commercial, I love commercial work. Yeah, St. Joseph Candler is one that I absolutely loved working on. You also are highlighting your city. You're showing what services St. Joseph has. So there was purpose behind that as well. And then you're kind of setting up these little scenarios each day. And so that was exciting to work on. Again, it's fast paced, and you're also working with an agency, and you're trying to make their vision happen. So you're almost adding a whole nother element with that agency element to it as well, because they have a vision already, and it might already be storyboarded out, and you're kind of having to fulfill their needs.
Yeah, and just trying to find out, working with the client, trying to think what the client wants, and it changes.
Yes,
it's never quite.
That's right.
From 1 to 10 exactly. It's not a straight line. It's like boom, boom, boom.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Try to figure that out. With film, you get several takes over and over and over. You do it until you get it right.
Yeah. Time, or do you just don't have any more time? But yeah, typically, yes, absolutely.
You worked on, and I'm skipping around here. You were a location scout on the Travel Channel season 2, episode 12 of The Booze Traveler.
Yeah.
What was that experience like? I'm just pulling that out of the air.
That was random. It was just trying to find, it's really neat when someone comes in like a Booze Traveler, or I worked on another one where this family, came in, they wanted an RV, and they're literally traveling from one place to another. Mm-hmm. But you're already working with this show, with this material. And so I watched a lot of episodes, and then you were able to kind of see the format, and then you could go to particular businesses and see who wanted to participate and what they should highlight. So you kind of became like a Savannah, you're kind of the local, and you got to point them in that direction.
Like you definitely want to check this out. maybe not check that out, but definitely check this out. It'll go more
Yeah.
into format. And so, I mean, you've worked you worked a lot of places. What was it like working with Savannah? Well, it was a Savannah film. It's a Savannah Regional Film
Yeah, it
Commission.
was the Savannah Film Office at that
Yes,
time.
it was at that time, I recall.
When I was, and it was kind of like, I know what it was more into. You were promoting films at that time. You were making location packages, so it
Mhm.
helped me when I went into locations. But then it also you're permitting. You're helping SCAD. You know, you're doing the permits for SCAD, and so I learned a lot about the city, how it operates, how SCAD operates, and um, just knowing that permitting, that the rules that we follow in
Right.
and out. I will say that it used to be a lot different. There was a lot of things were free here. There wasn't anything set up like definitively when I was working there, and so uh, it was it was problem solving. It was getting films here, but then also just permitting what we could.
Right. Because I imagine it's changed. Savannah is more in demand now, so
Yes.
things probably got more expensive. And
Yeah.
public, locations. There's certain locations that
Which is good. It definitely made it. It took they took Savannah more seriously. When a producer comes in, he's not going to exploit those free locations. There's a system in place. It's nice that we know how much things cost. That is negotiable to some degree, but
Mhm.
typically we have a set cost that needs to be followed, and it weans out some of the lower budget or maybe people that wouldn't take it so seriously or care for that location the way it should be.
I don't want to call it a paywall. It's not that, but I get what you're saying. Those that are serious about it, will be able to put up a certain amount of money to get, said level of locations. And
Yes.
um, I know the city has done a lot to really embrace the film industry in Georgia, and the local and the state government with the tax incentives.
Oh, yes.
We worried if the tax incentives, there's a chance they could have went away in 2020, and then the end of the world came with the, the pandemic, and everybody forgot about that. And but have we not had that extra incentives that can certainly, if South Carolina got more competitive with theirs, if Florida got more competitive with theirs, because I know, you know, that's people. The bottom line is productions are going to go where it's the most cost effective to set up their production office, and what works with the overall budget. When it comes down to it, it comes down to money, and it comes down to, you know, being as close to the location as possible. And
Yeah. And I was in New Orleans when the tax incentive, Bobby Jindal cut the incentive, and
right.
and film was going to Atlanta, and it's hard to see when that happens. And I know that there's an ebb and flow with production, but it was hard. It was devastating to the area, and I think that it did push a lot up here during that time.
And
Um,
it can also be perceived in some ways as a disadvantage to local talent in the city, if, like, when the big Savannah boom started happening in film with the incentives, and all these major feature films were coming here, and television and commercial work was really ramping up, and everything, and we're still, after 2020, it's going to be back. The industry is definitely coming back, but
there's going to be a need for content.
yeah, there's going to be a big need, because we're going to run into a long period of reruns of everything, and but yeah, do you see, or have you seen that? um I've seen it. Okay, I'll say that I've seen it, where people that weren't locals all of a sudden they flooded in from Florida. They flooded in from North Carolina when North Carolina's industry kind of went down. A lot of those people flooded here. They relocated to get their address in Georgia,
Yes.
Savannah or whatever. And then you think about the talent that's coming up, maybe some of the local people that possible crew might not have made it, might have made it, but now there's all this extra competition. And I mean, that's the nature of business, and that's the nature of the competitive nature of the film industry. It's a business after all. But do you think I think that's a valid point. I mean, I've seen that, when I was kind of up and coming in the industry, and to see all these people come in and they act like, yeah, I live in Savannah, and Savannah is my town, and I'm like, yeah, but you aren't, you're not a native Savannah, you're not a native New Orleans person, you're not a native, whatever. But it's interesting to see, people go where the money is and where the opportunities are, and there's nothing wrong with that. But that's why I think it's important really to build our talent base. Now, if Ang Lee comes to town, I expect him to bring his best people with him. Disney comes to town, I expect them to bring them in the at least in the key roles, and of course they do employ, in a lot of different areas in different departments. So but you're not going to just jump out of film school in Savannah or whatever, or go through a certificate program and then you're the cinematographer or is second AC or whatever it is on an Ang Lee film. It's rare it happens. It could happen, but
being in a film, I think that SCAD, also the Georgia film program, like those are really great. I've worked with some really great people that have come from through both schools, and I think that it's, like you said, very imperative to train them up and get people where they need to be to take on the roles that come to them.
What ideas, and I don't know if you can quite answer this question, but what ideas do you have for up and coming filmmakers that are trying to fund their projects, their low budget or ultra low budget or no budget films? What is your advice do you have any advice maybe to up and coming?
I'm still figuring that out myself, honestly. It's a very, very tough thing to do. It's extremely challenging, and the one thing that I've learned is there are people that do it, and there are people that are open to helping. I mean, when I was trying to put together a budget, for instance, I really relied on past line producers and I think just people that were open to discussing how that goes together. It's a very, very hard thing to pitch your project. I think that's why a lot of things have stalled, especially here in the industry and locally. It's a very tough thing to do when you don't have those financiers lined up.
And Hollywood has had to acclimate themselves to Savannah.
Yes.
They can't just bring in that mentality and they're like, it doesn't quite work here. It's kind of like if you're from the north and you move to the south, or vice versa, you're going to be, you have to, when in Rome, you have to do as the Romans do, kind of, as the saying is. And, there's an understanding that you've got to, tailor the way you approach people, the way you approach projects, how you pitch them. You might pitch them differently in Savannah than you would Atlanta.
Like and it's finding those local groups. It's finding those local, there are people, even like in the Creative Coast that are entrepreneurs, and I've met someone that knows certain investors, people that would potentially invest. After having surgery, I was talking to doctors even that were interested in that approach as well. And so once you get your pitch materials together, it's really sitting them down and discussing this opportunity. And it's difficult because, I mean, there may not be a payout in the end. But if you have a cause, and that's also why, the Kimberly Ray story was really, to me, something I really wanted to jump on, because there was a cause behind it. You're not, you're hoping that people pay or they pay into this project that is going to help someone.
Right.
It's more of an emotional, more helping, as opposed to this expectation that I'm going to get rich from this project.
It always starts with the story. Everything starts, I think, with the story. And if the story is weak, it's the project's not going to make it. If it's a strong story that people care about, that they feel, for me, I like the kind of films that just reach in and kind of grab your heart and just, yank you into them, and just, where it grabs your attention and won't let go. Those kind of films. And sometimes those are very hard and far and few between, that you find those.
God, I love that though. When you do get that experience, it is just it's unlike anything else. When you feel that, or when it moves you into a particular way,
And as a creator, to have someone else see your vision, like if you're producing, let's say you're producing that film, and someone says, "I like that. That is good," and then another person, this could be really good, and then before you know it, you're building this community, you're building this bit of a groundswell, and you've got sometimes people that you wouldn't even think would be interested in it, that are compelled by the story.
You're right.
Of the idea of it, and they want to help you. There's people like, I remember I worked on a project once, and I read the script, and I was like, I have to do this. And there was another one. I had another film that I regretted. I made the right decision, I thought, at the time, and knowing what I know now, I wish I would have made a different decision and went with that film, because that film's now won a ton of awards. And it's not so much that it's the one that got away. It's kind of like fishing. It's the one that got away. I caught this 7-pound bass. I don't know, I don't fish, so I don't know if a 7-pound bass is a big fish, so you have to tell me if you're a fisherman. I don't know. But as my example is, you have those projects that you're like, gosh, I wish I could have, because you hear about actors that could have taken this role. Like,
oh yeah, that happens in our field as well. I mean, in with the production side of things, I feel like when it rains, it pours, and you get, maybe there's 2 opportunities that present itself, and you have to choose. You're forced to choose.
I had to choose one time between 3 different projects, and they were all different levels of pay, and I had to decide what would truly fulfill me. Is a paycheck worth, a bigger paycheck worth a smaller paycheck, and being, but the smaller paycheck was the one that really spoke to me more. And you can't always be that choosy, but there are some actors that you can tell they're just going through the motions. They're paying bills. They've got to pay a mortgage and whatever else. It seems that way. They'll do any film, but you learn even through the bad ones, and then you get that one that's a franchise, or that one that's the big blockbuster out of nowhere, and people are like, where have you been? And you're like, I never left. I've been working. Actors go through that a lot, and it's interesting, but it's always the ones that I can think of one that got away, that had things been different, knowing what I know now, 2020 me would have taken that film instead of agreeing not to. And because this particular film is a very important film that had a very relevant message for today. And but that's that's life. You make the decisions you make, and you live with what happens from that. Sometimes we talk about what I conceive as pitfalls, but can you tell us like something that in your career that maybe seemed like a pitfall at the time, or oh my God, I can't believe I did this, or I took this and it turned out like totally different? Do you have an experience like that where, something that you're like, oh gosh, I wish my name wasn't on this, and then you because I know it goes the other way. Sometimes you do something, you think going in, it's going to be great. And then later on, you're like, oh, well, that was earlier in my career. I wish I wouldn't have worked on that. Take my name off of that. Have you had it
Yeah.
reverse, where there's something that you worked on that you're like, well, I'll take this, but I'm not 100% feeling this, but then it turns out to be this wonderful experience.
Experience. Yeah, I think that I have had those experiences. I do feel like, and it's not so much of the final project, it's the experience that I had working with the department that I had, because so much goes on kind of behind the scenes, and I've definitely hesitated to work on something maybe because of a manager. It happens, but it ended up being an amazing experience, and one that just taught me so much. But nothing that's like come out on the big screen. Like there are projects that I wish that I'd worked on. Like, I mean, the Peanut Butter Falcon was one of them.
Yeah, that was a good
God, it's a great movie, and I heard the experiences, and I know that was one that the locations department they suffered trying to make that happen, and being in that heat and just the locations and the schedule. I feel like for me, it's been more about the department than it has been about the story.
Now, I know that I've had some people tell me that probably one of the most professional, one of the best productions they just thoroughly enjoyed and had the best food, by the way, was Lady and the Tramp when it came through Savannah. A lot of people that I know worked on it and said it was just a really, really fantastic experience. And well, that's Marvel. That's Disney. So I would think that, it would be top notch. I would expect nothing less, I guess.
Right.
So that seemed to be one. I'm looking at different things here.
No, it's okay.
I'm trying to think if is there anything we haven't covered yet? Because we've talked about a lot, and you've,
we have.
yeah.
I think that again, it's just these are strange times, and I'm excited to see where it's going, and be a part of bringing projects to the area. I think that's I really want to see that happen, and to hopefully start 2021 on a positive note, and with a lot of.
Maybe we've got all the bad out of the way, at least all the roadblocks. I feel like we're going to come back strong. This industry is resilient. It's not going away. We've learned that streaming is now a viable option. I mean, films that were going to be in theaters, they had no choice but to go to streaming. And in 2019, it was kind of like, oh, if something's on Netflix, it's, not Oscar worthy. Why should it be getting the same as, a feature film in the theaters? And then when people couldn't go to the theaters, that they were closed, streaming was there. And so it's almost kind of like leveled the playing field. I feel in a way, I feel like we're moving into a hybrid kind of situation where I know that the theaters from streaming, especially if you own your own streaming service as a studio, you're going to make more of a percentage on that. Now, if you put it in theaters, you have a better chance of getting more box office. Like I know Black Widow just got pushed back to December when we're recording this, and hopefully it'll, things will be good by December that it can come out, because it's just like a Mulan that went to Disney Plus. It's a shame, I think, that didn't get the full, regular treatment that it would have gotten had it been released a year ago in theaters, because I really think it would have been a massive hit. And it would be interesting to see, some films, smaller films that never had a chance. People go to drive-ins now. Drive-ins have flourished. They've become an alternative that people hadn't considered. And I personally felt comfortable in my anxiety about COVID and all that, driving an hour or so down to Jessup Georgia or going up to Buford and checking out the drive-in, and it's kind of cool, nostalgic, and it's not the same as being in the theater. It's not the same experience where you eat too much popcorn, but you're in a controlled environment in your car, and it's kind of nice. It was different, but I
Yeah.
think we're going to see a different we're seeing more consideration for the Netflixes, the Amazon Prime, the
Yeah, it's definitely
other ones, Disney Plus, things that, it's not just, it has to be in a physical theater, it's changing, and people's habits have changed, and people will, I think, eventually go back to the cinema. I hope cinemas never go away, because that experience for me, especially, I'm a Star Wars fan, obviously, if you
Oh yeah, there's some movies that you just have to see in the theater. That's absolutely right.
I can't imagine watching the Lord of the Rings trilogy, the original, trilogy, on the small screen for the first time. It's not the same. Even if you have a home theater, it's not quite the same. There's something about like a Star Wars film on opening night, or if you're a fan of, I don't know, Matrix, I don't know, or a John Wick movie. I'm just thinking of an example, and being there with the real fans show up at the first showing, that opening night, and there's nothing like that. And I miss that experience of I'm saying, oh my gosh, it's this Friday, maybe they'll have a Thursday night showing or a Wednesday night showing, and I miss that. I miss that, because I could live in a theater. I really could. I would be most comfortable just sitting in the theater and watching.
It's such a unique experience. Yes. That's it. Just to expound on that, I think it's, it is a strange time, but just it's an easy time to also get down, and especially with our industry, and not having projects that are lined up, but just knowing that will come, and that there are people at the film office, there are people that are working to get projects here and get everything back up and running, even if it's going to be different. But there is hope that's on its way.
And those are wise words to probably end this on. So I want to thank you, Ryan Watterson, for being here on Savannah on Film. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. I think we covered a lot of territory here, and if you don't know what locations, it's not an easy job. It's not for the faint of heart. It's a lot more detailed, and there's a lot more working pieces of the machine than you may realize, and hopefully we've shed some light on that, hopefully for those wondering about it. And I wish you all the success with your producing when that happens, and what you're working on in your scouting, and like you, I look forward to getting back into the swing of things, and getting back on set and doing some good stuff, and creating again, but I want to leave people with this thought that, even the most challenging things that we face in life, we grow, I think, from those challenges. We don't grow from the easy times. The easy times, you can do those with your eyes closed, but it's when you're faced with an industry, your lifeline, your livelihood shutting down completely, that's when you learn how to find different ways to survive, and different ways to thrive, and work on. You discover different abilities, and you get to work on your craft. Like if you're an actor, you don't stop trying to get better at acting. You don't say, okay, well, there's no jobs right now, I'm not acting. You still should be practicing. You still should be honing your art and doing that. So anyway, I want to thank everybody, because this video is about to come to an end. I want to thank everybody who's joined us here on Savannah on Film here on YouTube. I want to remind you to please hit that subscribe button on the channel. We appreciate everybody that's the great response we've gotten for that. Also, hit that thumbs up button if you like this video, and check out some of our other videos, and enable notifications for future content. I want to thank everybody who's joined us in the chat, projecting into the future here. So thank y'all for your comments and your questions, and everybody who's going to watch it on the replay. And thank you so much. And I never know how to end things. I'll just keep going. So I'm just going to end it. But thank you, Ryan Watterson, for being my guest here this week on Savannah on Film. And we'll talk soon. And everybody out there, y'all take care. Goodbye.
Thank you.